Salvete omnes, amici amicaeque, this is Javier Maldonado from Vivavoce Classics. In this video I want to share with you two main things today. One is I want to explain to you very briefly why I think learning Latin through small quotes, it's a great way to improve your understanding and your learning in the language, whichever state you are in your learning process. And secondly, I want to address one of those quotes in particular, of which I made very frequently a post about. It's "COLLIGE VIRGO ROSAS," often translated as "gather the roses while you can." So if you want to learn about those two things, then I invite you to stay in this video and listen carefully to the information I'm going to present to you. Okay, so let's get started into understanding about this quote. But first of all, as I promised, why is it that quotes are a great way to, or I think quotes are a great way to improve your Latin or learn your Latin at the stage where you are? If you are familiar with this channel, you probably have found that it's a bit strange that I'm not giving a video in Latin today. And that's partly because when I thought of this course, I wanted to offer something that everybody would be able to access wherever they were, whether they use Latin on a consistent basis or whether they just do grammar and revision. Because the whole point of what I'm trying to do with all my publications, with all my video posts, etc., is to give some immersion context to people who want to get themselves immersed in Latin, so as to, well, get more confident and improve their fluency reading Latin. Well, I think quotes, and specifically for beginner students of Latin and intermediate students of Latin, are just a great way of achieving that, for two main reasons. First of all, because quotes are brief, they are short. You can even memorize them if you want, you can have them on your mind after you've worked on them, and it's a great way of improving your Latin, because you memorize not just the vocabulary itself, but also the grammatical structures, the particularities of some words that appear in that quote. And secondly as well, I think it's great to have not just little chunks, but also chunks where the language is put in context. When we study vocabulary, when we study grammar, we often, more often than not, do it a little bit out of context. Maybe it's an exception if you are following textbooks such as Lingua Latina per se Illustrata, which you all know I'm very fond of. But for many of the Latin methods that are out there, it's a long time that you have to spend working on the grammar and the vocabulary before you can actually access some original Latin, most of the time. I wouldn't say that's always the case, but most of the time. So I think small quotes they can work as a bit of a bridge to build up that gap between somebody who's still improving in their understanding of the language and somebody who's already capable of reading original texts without the need of a translation or any help of any sort. If you think this is the case with you, if you think after this video that Latin quotes actually help you to improve your Latin command, your command of Latin, then please give me a message in the description and I'll consider making more of these videos in the future. Right, so after examining these reasons, let's just get started with the quote. Collige, it's an imperative form, present imperative second person singular of the verb colligere, colligo, from the third conjugation, and it means to collect, to put something together. Probably they are referring to the bunch that the girls are creating. It's a compound form of lego and the verb cum, verbs that are formed, how can I say better? Using a prefix to adding it to another verb form is one way that Latin has to producing new vocabulary, to creating new verbs with a bunch of different meanings on the basis of one original base form. If you would like me to talk a bit more about this or create some posts on this in future videos or maybe my regular posts on Facebook, let me know and I may consider doing that for the future. Right, Virgo, it's the noun in Latin for a young woman who is nubile, that is, she is in the right age for getting married. She's probably culturally understood as sexually untouched. She's not yet met any man. And here it's used not as a nominative, but as a vocative form. So the poet is actually addressing the lady and calling her by her marital status, and also addressing her from the point of view of her age. He is referring to her as somebody who is both young and still, say, unaware of many of the realities that come with adulthood, with adult life. Rosas is the accusative form of rosa rosae, probably the most common noun and the one that gives so many people a headache when they started learning the first declension. I don't think it requires much more attention. So collect the roses, it's the first part of the quote. Young woman, collect the roses, young woman, collect the roses, you maiden. Dum, it's an adverb that often introduces temporal clauses, meaning while. So it's what it's doing really here. It's introducing a new clause whose verb will be omitted in the sentence, is est. It's not said in the verse itself, but we have to imply it from the context. It's very common in Latin that the verb to be, esse, in its different forms, it's not mentioned explicitly, but implied. So dum, while, flos, the flower, flos floris, from third declension. Novus, nova novum is the adjective meaning new, like a new shoe. I couldn't find a better picture, you'll have to forgive me for that. So while the flower is young, so do collect the roses, young woman, you maid, while the flower it's new, really, meaning it's young, or it's still in the power of the age, it's still blooming maybe. Et, Noah goes along. Et, I don't think it's a very difficult word. And Noah, it's repeated again here, although I haven't put it because it's in the previous picture. Nova pubes. Pubes is the word for young age, teenage even. It's if we were going to divide the ages according to the Roman cultural tradition, then pubes would be equivalent to puberty. It's somebody who is still really, really young, is starting to become an adult, but is quite there. So what's the poem, or the poet rather, trying to say through this verse? While the flower is young, or is new rather, while the flower is new and new the youth, it's obviously a reflection on the fugacity of time, the quickness with which time flies and passes by, and it's really an invitation to this young man, young lady, probably young woman, to enjoy the moment and to also pay attention to her beauty, as which is reflected both by the use of the roses and the use of the term Virgo. So this notion has been immortalized in plenty of occasions by many poets in pretty much any European language and culture who had any contact with the Latin language. So I hope you like it. If you still have any questions, do feel free to type on the comments below, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. And I hope to see you again all in the next Kinematografia, the next short movie, my next YouTube movie. And if you like this kind of short videos, please let me know, and also subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and share it with your friends who are also learning Latin. Help me to reach more people who might find this content useful. And until we see each other again, curate ud valeatis, videbimus in proximum. Valete bene.